Hi, hello everybody. I hope you're well, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce my old friend Ari. And I think it's really interesting because Ari and I have crossed paths in our careers in various ways, and we both trained Westminster Pastoral Foundation, which is the with many fond memories, and it's an excellent training. And so we've kind of come across each other, and that's why I thought it would be really interesting to invite Ari along, because he's got lots of expertise with couple therapy. It's a huge topic, and he really is the man to kind of tell you a little bit about his experience about going online. So it's a really interesting journey. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Ari, to introduce yourself, because you'll do a far better job than I could ever dream of. So lovely to see you, and thank you for agreeing to be on this. Over to you.
Thank you, Floss. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you and also talk to your readers and people who are interested about online therapy, in particular couples therapy. Indeed, we know each other for some time, and I've always appreciated this connection. WPF is the place where we both trained, and we know each other as colleagues for many years. Post-graduation, I started working as an independent psychotherapist in private practice, working in central London. Offering both individual and couples therapy. As it happens, I'm trilingual in Greek, in French, and obviously English. So I have been offering a multilingual approach in my work for many years. I have had a lot of interest around working online from the very beginning. So although I had my own practice in central London, I have always offered the option of online therapy from the very beginning, even at the time when it wasn't yet so popular. Obviously, with COVID and the lockdown, that became a lot more popular as an option for individuals and couples. And I'm happy to say that I'm now working exclusively online, offering both individual and couples therapy in three languages.
Wow. That really is very impressive. And we can do, it'd be lovely to have another conversation with you about that, because I think it's really interesting. Therapy often delivered in mother tongue, but I wonder if it ends up being a mix of everything when you're speaking to people. If they speak this, obviously it would be three languages, but that would be for another day. I think the best way to kind of kick off is because asking some questions, because some specific questions about, the key benefits of online couples therapy compared to the traditional in-person sessions. I think that's a question that many people would have.
And this is a very good question, actually. In my experience, the difference and the real benefit for couples coming to online therapy compared to in-person therapy is, first of all, the opportunity for them to choose from a very wide range of therapies with different specialities. And this is possible for doing it online, because obviously in person there are some limitations with regards to people being able to attend a specific consulting room in a specific address. I think so. This is one of the main benefits. Obviously, the fact that online therapy offers the flexibility for people to engage from their own environment at their own time is very significant. And the other aspect is that sometimes for some couples, the fact that they can engage with couples therapists remotely gives them a sense of safety sometimes, or helps them overcome some initial blocks or worries or concerns about what it might be like speaking with a third person about something very, very personal, like the challenges of their relationship. So those are the things that come to mind observing the work I'm doing.
Sure, no, and it's one of those things. I mean, I work with individuals, and I think there is something, it can be angst provoking for people, and there is a gentleness about that they're in their environment, the client's in their environment, and it can feel gentle in that way. And as you said, all the kind of practical sides of things, it feels also that they're together in that space. I mean, obviously sometimes people are in separate places, but they can also have the option of having the therapy when they're both in the same place, the couple.
This is actually a very good point that you remind me, which is the fact that actually it's very difficult, if you think about it, to get three people to agree on the specific day and time to meet week after week. And so what online therapy allows couples to do is, in cases where one of the partners needs to travel for work, they can attend their session remotely from another location. So it has happened a few times that all three of us are logging in from different locations, and that actually it's one of the things that online therapy for couples is much more advantageous than in person.
Sure, especially if one of the couple travels a lot. I think that's a great way of being together and making it something that, because sometimes it would mean that one part of the couple couldn't attend, and in this way everybody can be together in the session. Cool. Okay. How do you think the virtual format affects the dynamics between the therapist and the couple? Because I'm interested in that. I've not actually had or been party to couples online therapy, so a lot of these questions are my own curiosity and things that our clients might want to know.
This is a great question. Actually, as an experience is very different than the one in person in a consulting room, and people have to accept that. When I say people, I include ourselves, the therapists, that it is a very different experience, and it is a different channel of communication that gets created between the therapist and the couple. There are some things that could be challenging, and it's good to have in mind and share with the couple from the get-go. When people come to a consulting room, the therapist will take care of having an appropriate environment with enough privacy and without the chance of being interrupted. When we work online, this is a shared responsibility. So this is something that the couple need to be able to implement from the get-go, so that they can choose a comfortable enough and private enough environment to have their session. There is another aspect which could be sometimes challenging, are the technical difficulties. Technology sometimes fails, and even if there is a well-established video channel, sometimes the quality of the connection might deteriorate. So it's really good that we have a backup plan, or at least explain to the couple that, if we have a technical difficulty, let's have our mobile phones nearby. We can talk and kind of figure out if we can continue the session or if we need to reschedule. And if there are difficulties that the session cannot go on because of technical reasons, I'll be more than happy to reschedule at another time. So those are things that actually don't happen in a consulting room, but it could happen. They could happen online, and it is important to have them in mind and share those with our clients from the very beginning.
Sure, I really like that. I like to have a plan, and I think it's a really good one. I mean, I've done a lot. I had actually, before online therapy was a thing, and Zoom and things like that. Skype existed, but I had a client in Africa, and I'm being specific, non-specific, which is why I'm just saying Africa, because it's much broader, for confidentiality purposes. And at times the signal was absolutely terrible. So we would have the therapy over the phone, and and it worked really well that way, actually. I think it really did. And in the end, she preferred that because she was very tuned into that. And I think I'm actually a very auditory person. I'm able to focus more when I'm not. I've noticed it a lot, actually. When I'm working with clients, actually the focus seems to be much more attuned in that way. So it's interesting, and everybody's different. So it's good to have a plan. I love a man with a plan is a great thing, and obviously a woman with a plan is great. So that's fantastic. Can you share an example, obviously in a good confidential way, of how online couples therapy has helped a couple in crisis? That would be fascinating.
Well, there have been many occasions of couples finding it very difficult to negotiate their difficulties during the lockdown. In some respects, the lockdown was an enabler for a lot of couples to find themselves closer together, just because we had the external constraint about not being allowed to go out and so on. But at the same time, those constraints created some particular situations where couples found themselves a little bit entrapped. And so finding a couples therapy and coming to couples therapy during the lockdown was really only possible through online couples therapy. And so I have a number of examples in mind where couples went through a very distressing time, not being able to interact with other people during the lockdown, and really the only way they could find a safe space to express themselves and think together about the particular challenges that they face because of the particular circumstances was online therapy. Now, what is very interesting is what happened post-lockdown. When the external constraint was removed, for some couples, this external constraint was actually a very good container. So once this container was removed, well, they had to negotiate and find different ways of containing their differences. And this is actually something that I have observed, where there has been, I wouldn't say an explosion, but a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily consider coming to couples therapy post-lockdown, they find that actually it is something that they need to invest into their relationship, because a lot of relationships that gelled and formed during the lockdown have great challenges afterwards. So this is a phenomenon that I have observed.
Okay, wow. Okay, really interesting. Okay. I like that idea of it, because it was a completely different world. It was completely different. And I can't really quite connect to how different it was, but you mentioning it is like, oh God, yeah, no, it was completely, you were either very compacted or very desperate, so in different places. And if you had been in one country, you couldn't get back home and so on, and that created an enormous amount of complications. And yeah, I think if you start a relationship on those foundations, and then it becomes completely, as you said, uncontained. So yeah, fascinating, really fascinating work, actually.
There is another aspect which is a little bit specific to people who live in mega cities like London, where prior to lockdown, a lot of people had organized their living arrangements in a way that they knew that they could spend quite a lot of time away from home, either working and then having activities after work. Therefore, the way they have thought about their living arrangements, in particular for couples, were very different when all of a sudden they needed to spend 24 hours, days on, in the same physical environment. And that was another aspect that created a lot of tensions, if you like, and challenges that couples didn't have to negotiate prior to lockdown.
Yeah, because I think all the structure was removed and replaced by another structure. And if you like trapped in something that was an anathema to the relationship, i.e. if either the male or the female were out working the whole time and somebody was the caregiver, suddenly both parents were at home. And I guess that raises questions of parenting style. And if you're trying to work and you've got your little ones kind of running through the room, which it always made me laugh when that would happen in an interview on the TV, where kind of real life got involved in the kind of media, and it was all on display. But yeah, no, I can see how that would pose, big challenges that needed some help to manage. Cool. Another question. What advice would you give to a couple considering online therapy? Well, you mentioned investment. And I really believe that therapy is an investment, and it's such an important one, because anything worthwhile is worth investing in. And there are so many reasons for that. So we consider UK Therapy Guide that therapy is an investment in yourself and others, and that investment is in a happier, more a calmer and a more stable pathway to your future, or to your present and your future.
Well, this is an advice I would give to any couple, independently if they considering in-person or online therapy, is to take their time to research, find out a little bit about the different modalities, look for the therapies that they imagine that they will feel comfortable with. And very important is try, engage. And what is actually different for online engagement, and this is something I always say to people who get in touch for the first time, is because of the medium, because of the fact that we need to find ways to tune to each other through the screen and through somehow a limited amount of frequencies through the audio, it will take us a little bit more time than just to feel that we can connect and feel that we have a good connection with the therapeutic experience. So I invite people actually to be a little bit more patient and give themselves a little bit more time, at least 2-3 sessions, to see how they feel and imagine how they will use that experience. Often people come with the expectation that the therapist will fix things for them, that the therapist will tell them who's in fault and how to conduct their lives. So this change of mindset, which is from one where they come a little bit like children to a grown-up to tell them what went wrong and how to fix things in a more collaborative way, so they can think a little bit differently about themselves. And that takes some time. So I invite them to try it, very important, and give themselves the time to make sense of this different experience. And then after 3-4 sessions, if they feel that this is the right thing for them, then that's clearly something we can engage more intensely.
Sure. I think that's really important, that it's going to be unfamiliar. And I think, committing to, and I always suggest 6 sessions, because it is such an unusual experience for many people. It's very, individual therapy where you're with somebody. It's a totally neutral space. But as a couple, the dialogue, the being able to listen to your partner, which is pretty key and can be one of the many reasons that people come there. I'm not being listened to, or I'm being listened to, but I'm not being heard. So I think allow that to kind of resonate and feel the kind of way around. It's like anything, as you said, a collaboration. You're creating something and you have to create that space together. And the way that's done is through those foundations. And when things are unfamiliar, they can feel a little bit overwhelming. but you need to bed into something. And again, that's about, I guess, investment of time and money and investment in the relationship. And when you have strong foundations, it means that when challenges come along, you're able to wear those challenges and work your way through things. So yeah, no, that makes an enormous amount of sense. Yeah.
There is one fundamental difference, if I can add to what you said, Floss, between individual therapy and couples therapy. Couples therapy, it's not two individual therapies in parallel. And this is a pitfall sometimes for clients who come for couples therapy. And sometimes, sadly, it could also be a pitfall for the couples therapist that he might or they might be drawn into a situation where they feel they need to process or they need to work with two individual therapists in parallel. And the reason why this is something that the couple and the therapist need to acknowledge is that they need to be able to create a thinking space between the three of them. And in particular, when people had the experience in individual therapy and then they come to couples therapy, they try to make sense based on their past experience what to expect, but it's a very different experience, and this requires a little bit of time also to make sense and make use of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually have had couples therapy some time ago, and it was a different experience, and that space together did take some time to develop and yeah, well, to be created, I suppose. Okay, that makes, thank you for that very valuable insight. One of the things, again, and it is a dominant, how does money and financial habits of the couple play into the dynamics of the relationship? That's quite an important piece there.
Actually, money is something that comes quite often as a apparent reason for disagreement or difficulty to find a satisfactory outcome of those negotiations in the couple. Obviously, the couple will be very much concerned to resolve the very specifics about the disagreements. But actually, if we're able to see what is underneath those tensions or those difficulties, what are maybe some unconscious processes that might be going on. And again, one has to be mindful that we're not analyzing individuals, but we try to analyze the dynamic of the relationship around the money difficulties. Often is an indication of some early life experiences or some particular attachment style of the individual, but then it is reflected in the relationship. And so this is a wonderful opportunity, but sometimes quite challenging to show that to the couple, for them then to identify it, recognize it, and then think about ways they can reposition themselves facing those same challenges together. So money issues are often very helpful, if you like, clinical material for couples therapists to work with. So yeah, I see that very often in the work I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. The relationship with money is a very prevalent, and if people are starting from different positions to get below that and kind of understand it in that context and how it moves and the dynamic within the relationship, yeah, I can see how that would be enormously helpful. Can online couples therapy effectively address issues related to money and attachment?
Absolutely. We need to recognize that this is a real difficulty that the couple is facing, and the reason why they need to find different ways to think about it. So we need to take the time to listen, understand exactly how each individual is perceiving the challenge and how they position themselves, and having a little bit of understanding about some of their early life experiences, which, by the way, it's very helpful to have this exploration in the couple rather than having individually discussing about it, so that the partner also has the chance to listen and hear and understand maybe some of the early life experiences of their other half that come in the dynamic of their relationship. And it is a process that we engage with. It will take a little bit of time to get there, and every couple is a unique situation, of course. But certainly it is something that I have seen been resolved in a very satisfactory way in couples therapy.
Yeah, I think what can be really interesting is a couple can we have that history, but we don't necessarily share that. We certainly don't share it in, perhaps before we get married. So we don't have that understanding. So that's why it is enormously valuable, because we go into that journey together, and it's a neutral space, and we can understand more. And I think when you have meaning to people's behavior, it gives you the opportunity to be in a more empathetic place, to be in a more understanding and almost kind of depersonalized. And it does give you that bond where you can go together through understanding. Well, look, Ari, I mean, what a fantastically, I definitely want to know more. We haven't got too much time yet, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this journey, and I've learned a lot. I mean, this is why I love the Meet the Experts thing, because of course I have my own professional experience, but it's an opportunity for me to learn from wise other therapists and other reasons, and it certainly engages my own thought process. And that's why, it's such a pleasure to have someone with such experience and that's very eloquent. So there were things that it really made me think, or rather it really makes me think, and I love that part about UK Therapy Guide, what I get to do, because I get to meet fascinating people, both clients and therapists, and that's really what we're all about. And I love the idea that when we next have an inquiry and I'm thinking, okay, well, this makes sense, and it helps Olive and others to say, okay, we're placing somebody in very safe, knowledgeable hands, and it feels like a very gentle and safe journey. So that's great. So listen, thank you so much. As I said, we haven't got time for any more today, but I do have a few more questions. If we can perhaps at a later date revisit some of those, that's fantastic. So thank you so much.
It will be with great pleasure. I enjoyed thoroughly thinking with you about those questions, and more than happy to re-engage at a later time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, look, you have a lovely day, and I've got lots of things to think about now, which is one of my favorite things. Have a lovely day, Ari, and may the sun's actually shining here. I know you're in France right now. It's shining here in London, so I hope it comes out for you in France. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Now.